to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could we remain standing for our invocation? Is someone? Oh, Pastor Basio.
I did promise a family that we would pray for them. They recently lost a loved one, and I'm sure there are others in the city who have also lost loved ones. So let's remember those who are grieving right now, please. Lord, we thank you for this time together. We thank you for leadership. We thank you for your leadership and for those who serve us every day. Provide strength to those who serve. And Lord, right now we remember families who are suffering the loss of loved ones. Give them strength and peace and courage. Bless our citizens in our meeting tonight. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
All right, Mayor. Councilman Templin is asked to be excused. Councilman Cisco.
Present.
Councilman DiGiulio. Here. Councilwoman Gabarecki.
Present.
Councilman Rourke. Here. Madam Pro Tem McLeod. Here. Treasurer Armstrong.
Present.
And Mayor Matakas.
Present.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. Make a motion to put the agenda before.
Motion.
Councilman Sisto has moved. Councilman DiGiulio has supported. Is there any discussion?
I think we'll separate claims and accounts here tonight, Mayor.
The consent agenda, since we in work session are going to have problems on the license and permits and they're being separate, we won't have a consent agenda at all. We'll just leave the items as. Oh. Excuse me. We have multiple agendas. It seems like I have an old one. So those items will be changed. Any other changes?
Just to confirm, we're removing consent agenda item B also from consent?
Well, it's a single item left. You could treat it as a consent agenda, but I would just take a motion on the payroll. If there are no other comments, questions, or changes, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Thank you. A motion for approval of the minutes for June 11th.
Motion.
Councilwoman Gabarecki has moved. Mayor Pro Tem McLeod has supported. Is there any discussion, changes, additions, or deletions? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That is carried. We're at organizational business. The first item is the city administrator's updates reports.
Presentation.
Oh, they all have the new agenda. We actually have two new police officers that are going to be sworn in tonight, and I apologize to them and their families. I knew about it. It just didn't get on the agenda that I was given, so I would ask the chief to come forward and make the presentations.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Seems like I get to do this every couple months now, which I really enjoy doing, is bringing new officers on. So tonight I bring before you Douglas Monticelli and Allison Michaels. They are both recent graduates of the Oakland Police Academy. They graduated on the 14th of June and started employment with us on the 17th. So they're just beginning the FTO process. They both did well in the academy. They both are highly motivated and ready to go. So we'll get them sworn in here and get some photographs taken and let you guys get back to business. Thanks.
Thank you.
At the end, I'm not going to make you repeat. At the end, say I swear, I affirm, I do whatever, or I do whatever you feel comfortable with. Please raise your right hand. Do you, Allison Michaels and Douglas Monticelli, do solemnly swear that you will support of Michigan, and that you will endeavor to secure and maintain an honest and efficient administration of the affairs of the city of Allen Park, free from partisan distinction or control, and that you will perform the duties of a full-time police officer to the best of your abilities, so help you God? I do. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Do you want, Chief, do they want to take any photos inside against any of the background there, or?
We're going to step out with the city sealers.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming, and welcome aboard, officers. I'd have the city administrator start his report, but he's still coming to his desk. We're at organizational business, and the first item is the city administrator's operational reports, updates, and document submissions. Mr. Kibbe.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, residents of Allen Park. For the street sectioning, the contractor Savone Cement has finished the replacement of Helen Street from Louise Avenue to the cul-de-sac. That is open to traffic again. They've also finished University Avenue between Roger and the city border with Lincoln Park. There's a small section there. University Avenue off of Allen Road. Also Morris Avenue at Lawrence. Those have all been finished and are open to traffic. They're still working on Andrews Avenue near Maylon and Angelique Avenue just east of Park Avenue. Water replacement, the contractor has installed the new water main on McLean between Rosedale and Park. They're just waiting the results of the bacteria test at this point in time, and they plan on getting started on installing the new water services later this week, and that project will be well on its way to being complete. And then it's also being turned over, that area is being turned back over to the contractor for the street improvement millage, which is GV Cement. They continue to remove the old asphalt and concrete at McLean Avenue. They started near Park Avenue and are working east towards Rosedale Boulevard. And through the end of the street improvement millage project, both Fox and Colwell Streets are closed at McLean. My understanding is they are going to be putting the road back into some sort of order this week with the plan to lay the concrete for that area near Park Avenue and working towards, the first one is Fox, towards Fox. That'll be, I'm sorry, that's Colwell. Between Park and Colwell, right after the 4th of July. That'll be put back in at that point in time, and then they'll be well on their way to finish that project block by block. And then as they get to the end over to Rosedale, they're going to flip back over and then come back east towards, or come back west towards Park Avenue. East, west, it doesn't matter. They're coming back towards Park Avenue from Rosedale. So that's all good. Parks and Recreation Department, they played the Department of Public Services last Friday in a football game. Recreation won by a final score of 42-6. And actually it was a softball game, but there was no competition. The young guns from the Parks and Rec Department, they showed up. I'm gonna go out there next time and help DPS a little bit. I'm gonna check the payroll sheets to make sure that they were all legitimate employees there. I'm not too sure, some of them, they might have been some ringers in there, but they had a good time. New location for the farmer's market is gonna be Park Avenue in Harrison in the Weiss Funeral Home parking lot. That is across the street from the church, I believe. The current parking lot that is usually used for the farmer's market is being used by the residents of McLean as they do the construction project. The police department will be hosting National Night Out on Tuesday, August 6th from 5 to 9. They're going to be over here in the court parking lot. I think they're going to have a dunk tank for some officers. I imagine you may see a couple of new officers in the dunk tank. A couple of the older, younger officers will be in there as well. I think they're looking at doing a couple of courses. obstacle courses where maybe they put on the uniform and the belt and see how heavy the equipment is as they run through an obstacle course. And I believe they're trying to get the simulator that they had at the street fair a couple years ago from the city of Woodhaven and kind of see, put yourself into a scenario and make, I think it kind of helps realize it is not an easy task when you're an officer and a split decision has to be made at that point in time. So that'll be here at the police department parking lot and the court parking lot, and we'll have more details as that comes about closer. That is election night as well. I tried to get them to move that, but that is the actual national night out, and they are going to have a couple food trucks there as well for some food and stuff like that. So a couple milestones were reached by a few of our employees here. Zachary Nielsen in the police department, he reached 5 years of service on June 30, or he will reach on June 30th. Sandy Blakeney, the library director, she reaches 5 years with the city on July 1st. I know she has many more with the city, but that are with the in the library because she was with Wayne County, but that's 5 years with the city. And then Jeffrey Hadda, who's in our fire department, he reached he'll reach 20 years on July 8th. And then also Culver's tentative opening date is July 8th. As much as it looks like they don't have a whole lot of progress being made on the outside of the building, they have about 95% of the building done inside. So their tentative date is July 8th. And then Marriott Town Place Suites, again, it doesn't may not look like much outside right now. Their tentative opening date is being looked at for November 1st. And I think that is everything I have at this point in time.
Del Taco.
Del Taco is open right now. They are open, and I think that they've have gone over really well with the residents and the passerbys on Southfield Road as well. So, and I'll keep it quick. We got to go closed session tonight. There's a baseball game on. I love baseball. I love Michigan. Happen to be a great combination. I want to go home. I don't watch the baseball tonight.
I'll ask if there, for a motion to put the city administrator's updates, reports, and documents before the council. Councilman Rourke has moved. Do I, second, I'm sorry?
I had one question.
Well, you can ask it.
Oh, after, okay.
Support.
Well, he got the motion started, so let's get the second.
I'll support it.
Councilwoman Gavrecki. Mayor Pro Tem McLeod, question.
I just wanted to clarify, what does it mean, item number 2, where it says they will start installing the water services? What water are we talking about?
That'll be for the residential, so that from the new line, from the new water main to the residential houses.
But they have water now.
They have water now, yeah. They'll just be switched over. I think that's probably a couple hour that they're out of water for while they're doing the new pipe over. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions of the city administrator? I hear none. See no hands up. I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next item is mine, which is the motion I'd like for the appointment of Lorraine Powell
Motion, Mayor.
to the Allen Park Historical
Support.
Commission. Councilman DeJulia was moved. Councilwoman Gavrecki has supported. The application is in. You've had a chance to read that. I did get an email from Scott O'Reilly, the chair of the Historical Society, and they've talked about it, and they're very happy to have Ms. Powell coming to join them. She did attend their meeting, I think it was last Tuesday, and her husband serves on the Zoning Board of Appeals, so they're active in the community, and I had a long talk with her, and seems like a fine person. I think she's also a Quester, which is a historical group that is national. I can never track down the local organizations, but they do have a national web page. So if there are any questions, I'll try and answer them. If not, I'm going to ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. At this point, we're at the public comment section of the agenda, and I ask the residents or other speakers to come before us to look at the rules of the quorum, which are on the back of the agenda, and I hope you will follow them in making your comments or asking your questions. Thank you. Floor is open to citizens.
Hi, Hi, Nancy Nick Cleveland. So I came to talk about the Kids Corner for the Street Fair. We're doing something different this year. We're going to bring all the inflatables inside. The past couple years with the wind, we had to take them down because it was too dangerous, the rain. So they're going to be in the ice arena. We don't have everything solidified yet, but we are doing classes during the street fair. So I just have a little bit of a draft here for you. We're still adding, we're going to be doing cooking classes for kids, theater games, creative movement with Mother Goose. I gave you a little synopsis too on what the classes entail. So as soon as I get everything verified in the times by Friday, I can make sure that you get that. So this is just kind of a draft right now. And the Allen Park High School girls soccer will be out front doing a dunk tank of the community center. And then we are going to have, it's going to be their hour classes. It's going to be $6 in advance. We're trying to put that on a website so people can sign up in advance. And it does have the instructors' names too in there. And I do know who they are. So they are teachers and some senior students that have graduated, so that are in these fields. So I feel confident with them. Any questions or?
Sounds great.
Okay, as soon as I get everything, I will get to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This is Pam Syke from Harrison. I'm coming before you to let you know I am Mother Goose, by the way, just so that you have an idea of who Mother Goose is. And the reason why I've come before you today is that we, just this past weekend, had our flea market, the first one that we've had in many years for the Historical Commission, and it went very well. We had 60 vendors, I believe Nancy said. Despite it being a beautiful day, we still had people come in, and that every vendor made some money, and that they were eager to come back again next year. And then I'd like to take and invite all of you and all the residents to the anniversary of our first, of a whole year of being open on the second Saturdays of the month. So we again will be having an ice cream social with some games, and we ask that you come by on July 13th from 1:30 to 4:30. Come and have some ice cream, socialize, and just enjoy being part of our community and visit our historical house. Thank you, and you have a good night.
You'll be putting out a flyer on that, I think.
Yes, we were just waiting for our flea market to finish, and then we'll continue, we'll edit. And yes, I plan on putting the giant ice cream cone back out so that residents will know that it's the ice cream social coming.
Good evening. Terry Cheney, and I had a couple of questions for you. Regarding the street repairs, I live on Paris Avenue, and I understood that there might be a repair during July. I didn't know if anyone knew what that might be date-wise for July, or if it is July.
I'm sorry, what street were you on?
Paris.
On Paris?
Mm-hmm.
If it's gonna be, it'll be some section, and I'll work with Tom to find out. I'll get your.
The reason I wanted to know is because we're gonna be out of town and then coming back, and I wanted to make sure if it was gonna be repaired while we're out of town, I'd like to have a car to be able to get it out, because we won't be taking a car when we leave town. So just looking for those dates, if that was the case.
Before you leave, can you see Tom Murray? And Tom is back, it's in the back corner.
Sure.
Very distinctive haircut like mine.
Oh, yeah, I like that, it's fashionable.
Thank you. He'll be able to help, he'll be able to give you some more information on that timeline.
The second question I have is the gas company's been coming around and talking to residents about putting the gas meter outside of the house, et cetera. Is that a city requirement? Is there some requirement that you must do this? They seem to want to pressurize the citizens into doing that. I, for one, don't really want it done, to be honest with you.
As far as we know, it's not it is not a requirement of the city. This is not a city project. This is a DTE project. I'm not too sure what, I guess you could refuse it. I don't know what the ramifications would be on that.
I did on the first wave, and they said, well, we'll drop you to the bottom of the list, but the fire department's requiring that we put it outside. And because then they could turn it off in the event of a fire, and I thought, you know, a gate valve would work just as well, rather than that big ugly meter in the front of your house.
Yeah, well, I've not heard the fire department's had a requirement. I'm gonna look back to see if Ed has that,
Okay.
there, but, we have had a number of issues with DT on that project. We've had a couple meetings with them in the last few days. We probably could have resolved a lot of these issues if they would have stuck with the meeting they had scheduled originally back in April or March or April. And they canceled that and continued on with the project. If you are having some issues, please let me know so I can make sure we get them resolved for you with our contact.
Yeah, they came, they left, and that was kind of it, so I haven't heard anything further, but I thought I'd ask the question while I was here.
Sir,
Thank you.
could you repeat your name again? I didn't quite hear it when you first gave your name.
Pardon me?
Your name?
Terry Cheney.
Terry, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chad Morrow. Live on Pelham Street, 6537 if you need that. I'm here tonight to talk about cannabis with the council. It's been quite a topic of discussion in Michigan lately with the passing of marijuana legalization last November. I know it's been quite a cumbersome task for the municipalities throughout Michigan as well to get a grip on the new laws, considering all the changes that have taken place with medical marijuana laws over the last few years, and now we have recreational marijuana to deal with as well. I first want to thank the council, first and foremost, those for doing their best to address this over the years in Allen Park. It's definitely a tough topic. When we've been told for years this is a harmful drug, only now to have evidence later of medicinal values coupled with the people calling for legalization. I'd like to tell you a quick story really quick about a girl I read about years ago named Alyssa Irwin, who at 14 years old was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. With nothing left but doctors telling her that they could ease her pain on her way out the door, her and her parents decided to try cannabis oil. Not only put it into remission, but she's still alive today at 21 years of age, 7 years. Unfortunately, what's been brought to my attention by some people in the community is the Allen Park current medical marijuana ordinance. What I'd like to talk about that is the fact that it says that as a caregiver or a patient, you can grow your 12 plants, but you cannot be a caregiver for anybody else. The state law mandates that a minor, for instance, Alyssa's case, the parent has to be the caregiver. So she wouldn't even be able to be treated in Allen Park if she was a resident here. That's the first point I'd like to bring up about the ordinance. The second thing I'd like to bring up about the ordinance is that there's been a long line of court cases against cities that have had similar ordinances. The first one I'd like to point out is Terbeek versus the city of Wyoming. The ordinance in Wyoming, which is in Kent County, generally prohibited anything against federal law or state law. The argument was that federal law would precede the Michigan Controlled Substance Act and as well, which would precede and preempt the Medical Marijuana Act. The local courts decided with the city. The Supreme Court said opposite. There's another court case of the People versus BZ, where BZ was 100% compliant with the state law, but he was issued some tickets from the local city for not complying with their ordinance, went to the Supreme Court, again, sided with the medical marijuana patient. Last but not least, there was the city of Charter Township of Ypsilanti versus Pontius, which is exactly what this particular case is here in Allen Park. They were told they could only grow cannabis for themselves as patients and nobody else. That too went to the Supreme Court and was overturned. My sole point in coming in here to talk today is to just give these examples and ask that the current city council look at the long line of judicial opinions deciphering the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. And I would strongly recommend that the city review the current ordinances and consider amending any provisions that restrict caregiver activities based on zoning districts. That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Charles Bone, Champaign. First off, congrats to the new police officers. I'm glad to see more and more police and fire coming in our wonderful city. I did email our Wayne County Commissioner about those lights I've been talking about for the past couple months on Champaign Allen. Still no response, but at least I tried. To the road department, keep up the good work and on McLean and with all the roads. They're doing a fantastic job being out there and making sure that the roads are staying not with potholes and stuff like that. I'm glad to see that there's more small businesses or all of these businesses. There's one that I know that wasn't mentioned was the Champaign Alley Boutique store was just open this past couple weeks, and if it's on Champaign now, if you want to check it out, it's wonderful. Down for the agenda, what I heard from the meeting before this, the work session, with the ice cream vendor thing, I personally, with the three, personally, I think it should be individually voted on because I don't think that we should have it all one for all kind of thing. If someone's doing the permit correctly and stuff like that, and someone else is not following the rules and stuff like, a company shouldn't be punished for someone else having the same kind of situation. Also, the last few weeks in Allen Park has been wonderful with all these wonderful events, with the car show to the pizza, beer, wine, pizza event, the softball games, and I hope we can keep continuing those types of events in this great city. And lastly, we won't see each other until the 9th, and I hope everyone has a safe, wonderful July 4th, and hopefully everyone in the city follows the rules of fireworks. And also with the fireworks, the City Baptist Church did a fantastic job the other night with their fireworks, and I'm glad that there's still someone in Allen Park that still does something like that in the city, and keep up the good work and stay positive. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward? Seeing none, I'll move to the next part of our agenda. Consent agenda was taken off the council's agenda, so each of those items are going to be dealt with a separate motion. And the first is claims and accounts. Motion to put that before the council.
Motion, Mayor.
Councilman DiGiulio is moved. Support?
Support.
Councilman Cisco is supported. Councilman DiGiulio?
Yes, just one question here on page 1 here under administration. I see we have Russ Pillar's name again. The lawsuit against the city from a police officer. It's seemed like the amount of money is $1,577, so it's winding down. What's going on with that? Are we coming to a resolution, an ending?
Councilman, you're out of time.
He just called uncle.
So recently there was a case that was resolved up in the Macomb County area that will have a bearing on this case. We have a call into Denny Pollard. He will be here at the next council meeting because in the meantime he'll be filing some motions for dismissal and so forth on the case as it is. He's hoping to have that information or resolved to that at the council meeting on the 9th of July. The case, as it was resolved, it still is very complicated. There's a lot of moving parts to it to see how it's really going to play in to everything, but it seems like the way that the contracts here were worded, that what was done was proper in comparison to the Macomb County case. I'm not too sure what that really means in the bigger picture of things, how we move forth, but first and foremost, it's most important, get rid of the lawsuits so we can, stop spending the money on that.
How much have we spent so far?
Oh, I think we're over 600,000, probably over 650,000. As you're seeing one here for $1,577, I've got one I just processed on Monday for $25,000 for the covert side of the case.
So is this going to be a dismissal against both Covert and Pillar?
That's what we're hoping for.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kibbe.
Do you have any other questions by council as to the claims and accounts? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. A motion for acceptance of the payroll report.
Motion.
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem McLeod has moved. Councilwoman Gawarecki has supported. Is there any discussion of this? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That matter is carried. Licenses and permits. A motion in regard to a permit request number 01209 by Tina Eismann for All-American Superhero Ice Cream. Could I have a motion on that matter?
Through the chair, if I could give a brief history to people not there. And I would like to recommend from the clerk's office a motion to deny. But they got caught about a month ago when they turned in their application. Talked to the lady, she apologized. They got caught a second time without a permit. And not only did they not have a current permit, they pointed to an expired permit, okay, which is against ordinance. Talked to them, they apologized, we won't do it. This Sunday, their truck was out in front of my house selling ice cream. So I just want people to know the clerk's office is putting officially forward a motion to deny, if someone would entertain that.
I'll make that motion to deny.
I'll support.
Councilman Cisco has moved. Mayor Pro Tem McLeod has supported. And you've heard comments by the clerk. Are there any additional comments by council? Hearing none, then I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, the permit is denied. The second one is an ICE 02-219 for Peggy Mays of Koolies Ice Cream.
I'd like to make a motion to deny.
And I'll support Mr. Cisco on that one.
Motion is to deny the Peggy Mays Koolies Ice Cream. Councilman Cisco, Councilman DiGiulio supporting. Any discussion of this matter? Just say for all concerned, the application does not appear to be in order. And I think that's one of the major problems with it. Any further discussion by council? I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That's carried. The permit is denied to Peggy Mays of Koolies Ice Cream. Third ice cream permit request 03209 by Sandra Humbarger of Humbarger Ice Cream. Do I have a motion on that?
I make a motion to deny.
To deny this matter.
And I'll support Mr. Cisco again.
Councilman Cisco has moved. Councilman DiGiulio has supported. Is there any discussion by council? Hearing no comments, then I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That is carried. We're down to other resolutions. A resolution to approve the 2018-19 year-end budget amendments. If I could have a motion to put that forward and ask Councilman ask CFO Katie to come forward at this time.
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem McLeod has moved, supported by Councilwoman Gawarecki.
So, in this case, as questioned earlier, the red is actually good. I'm actually moving money that they have excess funds. The ones in the black at the bottom are the bad. At the top, you see we received more money than we thought for both the community stabilization, which is the personal property, and we also got an extra $200,000 from the district court. So on the revenue side, we're going to be $400,000 better than we thought we were. On the expense side, however, we're going to end up spending about $481,200 more than we bring in for the year end. This is based on the best information we have today. Could still go either way, and we still are hoping we're going to do better than that. But the bottom line is, if you look about 2/3 of the way down the sheet to the administration, you can see that the lawsuit pretty much put us over the edge, and we probably will see fund balance go down around $400,000 this year. Still, considering we have a $23 million budget, that's not too bad. And then there's also 2 years of back wages and calculated in here for the firemen that were really part of 2 years ago budget, last year's budget and the year before, and we have to pay those out too. So all in all, I'm still hopeful we'll do better than this, but we are planning for the worst case scenario just in case it does come to fruition. So with that, I would ask for your approval of the budget amendments. There's no questions.
Just one question with the overtime, the 53,000. So is that 53,000 more this year being used?
Which account are we
on
referring?
fire?
On
down
fire?
At the bottom.
Fire department, yeah, they were 53,000 over.
Okay. Thank you.
That also included retro pay.
Yeah, that's including the retro pay
That's
and
right.
everything, yes.
Okay. So it's hitting now.
That's in total. That's you gotta remember also, the pay that we'll get in July, the first pay of July, that's gonna get charged back to this year because that's really, we're earning that money now in this fiscal year, so it's not fair to say that it's just everything.
That's what I want to find out, that
Right,
53,
it's
there's a pay,
everything really through
payback.
July 5th.
Yeah, so there's a portion of that was retroactive amounts based on the overtime that was worked previously.
Got it, okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions by council? I hear none, so I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Thank you, Mr. Cady.
Thank you very much.
Resolution to approve the library succession plan that is reflected in the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget.
Motion.
Councilman Cisco has moved. Do I have a support?
Support.
Councilwoman Gavarecki has supported. Any questions? Maybe the city administrator would just, for the
I'll walk through
members
this
of
a
the
little bit.
audience and those who might watch us on TV.
Yeah, so in the current fiscal year, about a year ago this time, or actually about a year ago, coming up in about a month or so, August, July, August, Sandy came to us and the library director and wanted to add a full-time spot. We explained to her that should have been talked about at the previous budget meetings and all that stuff. So she held on to everything. We came back in January and we sat down with her, and she had made changes within her budget to move some money around to allow for a full-time assistant director. And so what she's recommending here is that to take the youth teen librarian to a full-time position and then actually take that position and make it the assistant director position. That would be Brandy Swinehart is who she would move into that position. Brandy is currently doing those jobs and has been with the city for about 5 or 6 years. I think she got here just before I got here, and has been doing a really wonderful job. And so she was so as I go back in there, she's moved some money around in other areas to make this happen. This is very similar to what we had Pat Hawkins had done with recreation, and where if that was going to be a position they were looking to add, they had to make it work within the budget they were working within. And so she has done that to our satisfaction. And then this was put into the budget that was approved for July 1st, 2019, 2020.
Heard the explanation, and we have the motion before the council. Is there any questions?
Just
Mayor Pro Tem?
Just to kind of reinforce what's being done. My understanding, and I think we talked about this previously, is that Brandy has a degree or a master's degree in library science.
I do believe so.
And we're looking at this as possible replacement at some point, at some time when our librarian decides she wants to retire.
Yeah. As we all know, nothing's ever guaranteed on a succession, but it does line us up to having some sort of succession plan in place. Whether she's off on a medical or a leave and you need somebody in the meantime, that is one of the things we've been working on to try to get in place. We have a couple more departments we still need to get this into place, but this is one of the moves that was necessitated in this department.
Thank you.
So based on Gail's question, all the other employees in the library, if they've met that criteria or had those credentials, have been spoken to per se, or do we feel there's only one person, and this is the person that has the credentials to take this position?
Yeah, she has the credentials to take this position.
Okay.
I don't know the other people over there. I don't know if anybody else has the.
Because I know there's a number of part-timers, and she's one of those
Right.
part-timers. I just want to
Yeah,
make sure that there's someone else that doesn't have credentials that may be interested in this position.
As we have in the recreation department, there's only a couple full-time people. In this case, we only have one full-time. It's the librarian. So this will help to give a little stability to operations as well, because I think that's been an issue over there over a couple of different topics, where I think that if you have somebody with a full-time status, it's a little bit easier for her to manage as opposed to being a part-time worker, talking to other part-timers.
Right, and then she indicated that she'd been functioning in this capacity.
Correct.
And I think the other question that came up in a different discussion was the fact that not having a full-time position to substitute for her during vacation, et cetera, sometimes presented a problem, and so this takes care of that.
Correct.
Any other discussion by council? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
And I'll add just for Councilman Cisco, Brandy is an Allen Park resident.
You didn't even ask.
I think I might know that.
I think her father or grandfather was pastor at the Presbyterian Church, if I'm not mistaken, some time ago. A motion to approve the recommendation from Human Resources Committee on the city administrator's salary to be increased 4.3%.
Motion.
Support.
Moved by the Mayor Pro Tem McLeod, supported by Councilman Cisco. Mayor Pro Tem?
Okay. The HR committee met a number of times and reviewed all compensation throughout the city on which we might have impact other than elected officials, which we don't have any impact over. We looked at survey data from the Michigan Municipal League. We looked at surrounding communities. We did comparisons based on population, revenue, budget. And there was a lot of discussion, and Mr. Cisco, having been here when Mr. Kibbe was hired, attests to the fact that he was hired in at lower than the going rate for someone of his background and experience. Several years ago, we made an adjustment that was above and beyond the 2.5%. Last year, we did not do that because of the expenses that had been incurred with the City Hall and the Police Department building. We wanted to remain conservative in that regard. Looking at the compensation data again, and we did look at all department heads, so it's not just an individual. We looked at everyone, and even below that structure. It was felt that he is so out of line with anybody that's comparable. There are cities with 1/5 of the population where the city administrator is much higher paid. And therefore, we made this recommendation. I also received an interesting document that indicated that 17 years ago, the city administrator was being paid approximately what we are paying Mr. Kibbe right now. That's 17 years ago. So with that in mind, and we met again a number of times and had many, many conversations, and we agreed that we wanted to bring this forth to the mayor and council for approval to try to right the ship, so to speak. This still gets Mr. Kibbe nowhere near what he should be comparably, but it is a step in the right direction, and that is our recommendation.
I, at the work session, said I would like to speak after the Mayor Pro Tem spoke and speak in opposition to the amount of the raise. You'll see in item 4, the next item on the agenda, all the other directors and people of that are being given a 2.5% raise. The contracts that we've signed with our labor groups are basically 2.5% increases. You just heard the city administrator say we're probably going to finish the end of the year with somewhat of a deficit, which we can cover. We have a very large fund balance, but still fund balances are for the rainy day. Some of our items that have created the deficit is the end of the negotiations of 4 years with the fire department and what appears to be coming to an end, the decisions in regard to the healthcare cases brought by 2 retirees against the city some years ago. So those are the major reasons for the large expenditure increases that are coming to a conclusion right now. But my point is that the 2.5% seems to be a reasonable item. I would have felt last year if we wanted to give them 4.3% at that time, it would have made more sense since he led us in building this building and getting this done, and was a tremendous amount of additional work. I had suggested last year that we look at a deputy administrator because I know the administrator has more work than can be reasonably accomplished by one person, even as experienced as himself. Both he and the administrative committee didn't want to do it. And now we come here and say, well, he's underpaid. I would just point out, I went back to when the majority of this council served with myself, and we cut in 2011, we cut personnel, we reduced salaries where we could, we cut more personnel in 12, we cut more people and cut 6 fire in 13, we cut 3 police, we reduced salaries again through the 13 year, as well as the 14 year. And in fact, as late as 2013, the auditor said they raised doubt whether Allen Park was really a going concern, which is a very ominous rating for an auditor to give a business, a community, anything else. And so we went through reducing staff, salary, overtime, up through 2014. And from 2015 on, we've essentially gone to 2.5% raises as things have gotten much better for the city. And, but I don't think we can not be concerned about our futures. You see here, all of a sudden, our budget was so close for this year that we're going to run a small deficit. We have a fund balance that will easily cover it. But I do think something like over 100 employees were either let go or left because their pays were frozen, their pays were reduced. And so when the city administrator was hired, he came in at a salary that was negotiated with him, negotiated somewhat vigorously. He wanted more. We didn't want to pay him as much, and we compromised on a price. But I do think it's unwarranted to say on that comparison, because we don't know what another city's administrators are expected to do or where they're expected to be. Do they have backup? Do they have finance systems, administrators, or anything else to help them? And so I think the size of the raise is unwarranted. I think it ought to be in line with the other people, and we ought to go forward and get the deputy city administrator who would have a major component for human resources. We'd always had a part-time human resource director through the years that we had even the emergency manager, and when she left, that person went with her. And so we've not had that person for going on 5 years, come this September, I guess. So those are my thoughts. I think all the city personnel that have stayed and helped us get through this difficult situation are behind the 8 ball. They all took 10 to 20% pay cuts in those periods, and we've been giving them 2.5% for 4 years. So really, they're almost back to where they were in either 2012, 13, or 14 when their pays got cut. And I just don't see that 4.3 is a proper statement for the city to make. Those are my remarks.
Mayor, I'd like to speak since I brought the motion.
Councilman Cisco.
You know, I've been here for 8 years, and this city was a mess, absolute mess. And everybody that works here knows it. Anybody that saw what happened. I mean, we didn't get an emergency manager by coincidence. This is a mess. And it's been a mess for a while. And you can go back to the Burke administration, we can go back a little bit farther. Things were never put in order properly. So now, when we talk about 2011, 2012, 2013, that's past history. We're 2019 now. We have a city administrator that has put this city on the right direction, and it's on his shoulders. We as a council and mayor, we are part-time. We don't spend every day here. We come here for this meeting once a month. We come in for other meetings for like legal affairs, human resources, to do some of that business, and that's once a month. So the administrator, everything falls on him. If things go bad, who do we look at? We might get blamed as mayor and council, but it's the administrator that falls on him. Every single thing in this city, I don't care what it is. And the idea that a 4.3% raise is too much from a 2.5% raise, we're talking 1.8% extra to get him in line to what a man of his caliber should be making. Just the bottom line. And, you know, let me go further. Mark and I have had some arguments. We've had some stuff where probably some hard feelings then and then, but much to his credit, he puts that aside and does his job and has always treated me fair, always. And he does that with everybody. And we took into consideration, he does a performance review. We had among all the department heads. It was all anonymously, and they were all great reviews. And I don't think we'd be here right now if it wasn't for Mark Kibbe. Just plain and simple. That is I've lived here all my life. I've seen the city, what's happened over time, and then the neglect that's happened. And it's not happening anymore. There might be some dust-ups here and there that's really kind of things that we can fix or work on, but everything takes money too. And Mark, I was part of the committee that hired Mark Kibbe. It was myself, the mayor, and Mayor Pro Tem Bob Keaton at that time. And we had to go downtown, this was mandated by the state, to look for a city administrator. And we interviewed a bunch of people. And to be quite honest, Mark Kibbe came in at a bargain. And that's just the plain and simple fact. And it's embarrassing now to have to go to bat for him for 4.5% or 4.32% raise. It's embarrassing, and I apologize to you, Mark, that you have to sit here and go through that. I'm sorry. It should never happen that way. He's a good employee. He's a Melvindale brother because he grew up in Melvindale. So he understands Allen Park and Melvindale. And as much as I would like to see all the people that work for the city live in Allen Park, it used to be mandated one time by the state of Michigan. That no longer happens. But I'm sure if Mark had to do it over again, he'd be living in Allen Park. So
I tried. I couldn't afford it.
So I just want to say to my fellow council members, our human resources, and Larry Templin was one of our human resources committee people. This wasn't reached in a fast manner. We went over this a number of times. And salary, I went back and looked. And I actually advocated for higher money. And I'm disappointed he didn't get it. Because when Melvindale, okay, we all know Melvindale, nice little city, their city administrator makes more than ours. Think about it. The ability and the stress on a person has to be compensated in some way or another. And how do you do it? You do it by money. And that's the old adage. Do your job, do your work, you get compensated for it. And so I could keep going on for long and long, and I don't want to, bore everybody, but I just want to say that I hope that my colleagues here understand what I'm talking about. I hope Mark Kibbe's here for a really long time. I really do hope that. And I hope everybody sees the good deeds that he's done, the long hours that he works. If he was paid by the hour, he should be making a lot more money, and that's a fact. So with that, I am endorsing Mark's pay raise. And I don't think anybody should vote against it. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question, Mayor?
Councilman DiGiulio,
Okay, what was Don Wood's position here at the city?
Human Resource Director.
Okay, and when he terminated his employment with us, we were paying him $50,000 a year, correct?
No, I don't think he was getting quite that.
No, he was getting 50. He wanted more, but Bob Keenan brought up 50 and we passed it. But anyway, the point is, whatever he was making, let's leave, 50's a round number, let's use that. But you took over all his duties, didn't you there, Mr. Kibbe? I mean, we didn't hire another human resource director, so.
For that question, I don't do all of the duties. I probably do a good portion of them.
So
65 to 75% at least.
So we're $50,000 we didn't pay out to him per year, and we're paying you a little bit more to do it. And you're worth every penny. That's what that woman says with that image on TV.
I could interject, because I'm data-driven.
You could be data-driven, but I'm going to ask if there's anyone else that wants to speak against it, because I want to reply at least to Mr. Sisko's remarks. I am the mayor of the city, Councilman, and I spend more time with the city administrator than anybody else. I see his work. I think it's quality work. Do I think it's something that we go out and say, okay, we're going to raise him because we're afraid of him being hired away? Every small community at some point gets their best personnel hired away because we simply can't afford, as a matter of budget, paying what a bigger city with more money to spend and with greater needs. And I would point out Paula Gribben's work for us through 2012, city assessor. She was a level 4 assessor, which there's only 100 in the state of Michigan. It's like looking for hen's teeth. They're really scarce, and she worked for us at half the price of what maybe she should have been paid. And when she went to Grand Rapids, she got the other half of that pay, because that's a 700,000 population city. I just think that you have to be aware of all the people that have put in good work and have sacrificed here, and it seems to me that absent anything else, we compensate him similarly. If you'd have come last year and said he took us through a huge project in getting the city built and getting us moved, which we all know how big a problem that was, I think we could have rewarded that even though it was retroactive. But I don't see some fear of competition being a reason to start paying inordinate amounts. Everybody here, in a sense, is still underpaid. Those are my remarks.
We're not, mayor and council. We get what we deserve.
Well, I would disagree with what I've been paid, but
You get twice as much as we do.
I do 3 times the work.
Part-time is part-time.
You want to call it a question then, Mayor?
Well, I'm going to give the Mayor Pro Tem, she wants to bring some data forward.
Well, I just wanted to point out that when I saw the budget figures for the amended budget for 2018-19, I was aware of the fact that we were going to be over. And so you look at it and you think, you make a drop in the budget. And I will, again, reiterate that we looked at everyone's comparative compensation, and everyone did line up, oddly enough, even with the cuts that we had made here during the time when we had the emergency manager. Had we noticed any other department heads out of sync, we would have come forward with similar recommendations for them. The difference between a 2.5% increase and the one that is being recommended is $1,887, just to put a number to it. So it's not anything that is exorbitant. And again, Mr. Sisko wanted to go much higher because you've got a city like Melvindale, if you look at the comparable, with half the population and a much less budget and revenue. Even with this increase, their city administrator is still earning above what ours is. And this isn't being done to keep him from getting stolen away, because he has reiterated a number of times to all of us, and even Mr. Sisko has adopted him as an Alan Parker, that he loves this city, and he will do everything he can to make sure that we stay steady and solvent and moving forward.
Our work wanted to move the question.
I'm ready to go.
If there are other comments, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I oppose. Carried with the mayor in opposition. Resolution to approve salaried personnel wage increases. Motion to put that before the council.
Motion.
Support.
Councilwoman Gawarecki had moved. Mayor Pro Tem McLeod has supported. Is there any discussion on this matter? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That carried. Resolution for approved salaried personnel health care saving plan increases.
I'll make a motion for
Councilman
discussion, please.
Rourke has moved that. Support.
Support.
Councilman Cisco has moved. For the audience and those who may be looking in, would the Chief Financial Officer come and explain the healthcare savings plan, retiree healthcare program?
I'm kind of laughing because I may be able to do a better job on this, but I'd like to see if Bob could do it first.
Sure, what would you like to know? I didn't write this memo, but I can tell you what it's about. It's, right now, the people not in the city's healthcare program, after 2013, I believe, everybody was moved to a retirement health savings plan. They don't earn health care when they retire. The city's plan at that time was to, anybody not in the city plan was to get $40 a month, put into a retirement health savings account that's administered by MERS. The proposal is to increase that to $100 a month or $1,200 a year from the $40 a month or $400 or $480 a year. So that's what's before you today. Did I do it right, Mark?
That's correct.
All right.
The city administrator concurs. Are there any discussions by council?
Well, question to Bob or Mark, is this something that we're going from $40 to $100, so 2.5 times that? Is this something that we pay the 40 or we pay 50 and the employee can pay and put into this account? Why do we, I'm going from the mayor's discussion and discussion from this previous budget and things like that, why are we increasing such a big chunk? Why isn't there a progression, or why aren't they are they putting any skin in the game for their own retirement health savings plan?
Currently, there is no voluntary health savings plan. The employees have an option to put money into an FSA if they wish to help cover any extra health care or their deductibles, but that's voluntary.
There's no required match on this.
Right.
Police and fire do have a 3% with a 3% match from the city. But the TPOM and the administration have not had that.
So I mean, why did we have to go from 40 to 100 versus 40 to 50 or 40 to 60 and maybe incremental over the next 3 years go to that $100? I guess that's kind of the
typically
question.
it's been consistent with the TPOM contract, and that is one of the items you'll be going to closed session on tonight is the TPOM contract, and that was one of the items that was in that contract is an increase up to $100 per month. So it is just staying consistent with the union personnel.
Question, Mayor?
Councilman DiGiulio.
Sorry?
I guess my only question is can our city sustain these last 3 resolutions?
That's an excellent question,
Dollars.
Councilman. I can only tell you that in the 1920 budget, the money is there for this. In future budgets, obviously, we have a 5-year plan. We try to put all those pieces together. But as of right now, I can only tell you that the money's there for 19 and 20, which is the budget year we've just approved.
And we'll be voting on this again next year too, right?
This is always open for
Any
discussion, and
changes?
obviously, if it was an issue that there wasn't enough money, I'm sure that that would be one of the things that could be discussed, is rolling it back.
Thank you, Mr. Katie.
Any other questions by council? Just for the audience here and at home, the total amount of dollars that would be involved in this, there's 10 employees that would be affected, and so that comes out to be $7,200 increase in the budget.
If I could add something.
Yes.
I know that I'm not salaried personnel, that I'm elected, but I get this $40 a month also, attributed to my MERS. And I'm wondering if mine is going to be increased to 100 also.
A question, Mayor.
Well, it's not in the motion, so it's not,
Can I
the
have
increase is there.
Can I have a question statement?
Councilman?
Don't you get medical benefits from when you worked here for 10 years?
Yes, I do.
So-
And I came back in 2011, and I
Right,
got this also, along with
So
a,
you have full medical benefits for you and
Yes,
your
I
husband?
do.
From when you worked here 10
you
years?
know I do, Angela, we've been
I know
through
you
this
do,
already.
that's why I don't understand why you're complaining about it, or.
I'm not complaining about it, I'm just
Well,
saying,
it's-
if the union's getting it, and all of these appointees are getting it, and we're all at 40, my question was, am I going to get that increase too?
What happens to that money for you anyway? You've already got full medical.
Councilman, look,
All I know is what they've been giving me.
you
That's
asked the
why-
question, and the answer is, it is not in the motion.
Okay, that's all I
And-
needed to know.
Okay.
To research that,
Pardon me?
I'll research that to find out.
Yeah, well, that's why I sent the memo.
But her healthcare is, I don't know, so, but yours is as a retiree though, right?
Yeah,
But this is not stating retiree
I
here.
realize that.
So how would you be getting that?
Councilman, I'm just going to rule it, the discussion's out of order. She's asked a question, I answered the question, it's not in the plan. She's answered Councilman DeGiulio's questions, and I think the city administrator can look at it. We can go to the administrative committee again.
We don't have an administrative committee.
No other questions or discussions, I'm going to ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That is 1 nay. Councilman Rourke has voted no. We're at other business, and we are to convene into closed session for purposes of labor contract negotiations as permitted under MCL 15268, and I need a motion and then a roll call vote.
Motion.
Councilman Rourke has moved.
Support.
Councilwoman Gavarecki has supported. Roll call vote, please.
I have a motion by Councilman Rourke, supported by Councilwoman Gavarecki, to convene into closed session for the purpose of labor contract negotiations as permitted under MCL 15.268, subsection C. Shall we convene alphabetically? Councilman DeGiulio.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gavarecki.
Yes.
Mayor Matakas.
Yes.
Madam Pro Tem McLeod.
Yes.
Councilman Rourke.
Yes.
And Councilman Cisco.
Yes.
The yeses have it. We shall convene.
We will come in about 8 minutes, 25 after 7, please.